Why familiarity matters more than novelty for the ultra-wealthy. Luxury is often associated with discovery, new destinations, new experiences, new stimulation. But among high net worth and ultra-high net worth travelers, a different pattern quietly dominates. They return to the same coastline, the same resort, the same private villa. For the ultra-wealthy, familiarity is not a lack of imagination, it is a strategy. Recent studies show that the overwhelming majority of affluent travelers prefer returning to destinations they already know and trust. This preference is not sentimental, it is psychological. Novelty demands attention, familiarity preserves it. At the center of this behavior is uncertainty reduction. Wealth often comes with high cognitive demand. Decisions carry consequence. Time carries cost. Unfamiliar environments introduce variables, unknown quality, unpredictable service, logistical friction. Familiar places remove those variables. The human mind is, at its core, a prediction engine. It constantly seeks patterns, anticipates outcomes, and strives for equilibrium. When the world around us aligns with our expectations, a profound sense of calm takes hold. When outcomes are predictable, emotional volatility decreases. The low-grade, persistent hum of uncertainty that drains cognitive resources is silenced. Anxiety lowers, energy stabilizes. This isn't merely about comfort, it is a fundamental principle of psychological regulation. In a life defined by high-stakes variables and constant flux, the ability to forecast even the smallest details of one's environment is a powerful anchor. It is here, in the quiet certainty of the known, that a measure of control is restored. This restoration is not an illusion. It is a tangible offloading of mental effort. The mind, freed from the task of constant vigilance and adaptation, can finally downshift. This state of reduced cognitive load links directly to the pervasive modern challenge of decision fatigue. Consider the daily cognitive expenditure of a high net worth individual. Affluent individuals make hundreds of consequential decisions daily, spanning boardrooms, investment portfolios, and complex personal logistics. Each choice, no matter how small, consumes a finite reserve of mental energy. Over time, this relentless demand drains the executive function, the critical neural architecture responsible for focus, impulse control, and strategic foresight. The quality of each subsequent decision begins to degrade. This is the insidious tax of cognitive overload. Travel, in its ideal form, is meant to be an antidote to this condition. It is intended to be a period of restoration, a time to replenish the very cognitive reserves that daily life depletes. It is meant to reduce this burden, not amplify it. Yet, the paradox of modern luxury travel is that it can often introduce a new cascade of choices. Where to dine, what to see, how to navigate an unfamiliar culture. Each new variable, however pleasant, represents another cognitive withdrawal. This is why the act of returning becomes a strategic choice in itself. Returning to a known destination, a trusted property, is an act of profound efficiency. It systematically eliminates the friction of the unknown. The dozens, even hundreds, of unnecessary choices that accompany a new destination are preemptively resolved. The layout of the property is already mapped in memory. The preferred suite is already selected, its ambience and views are guaranteed constant. The best table at the restaurant, the one with the right balance of privacy and vista, is already understood. The rhythms of the place, the timing of the morning sun, the quietest hours at the pool, the cadence of service, are already internalized. There is no need to learn, to explore, to question. There is only the need to arrive. By removing the cognitive burden of choice, mental space is created. The mind is no longer occupied with the logistics of leisure, but is free to experience it directly. This is the ultimate luxury, not the acquisition of new experiences, but the deep, restorative peace of perfect predictability. Cognitive energy is conserved, allowing for true recovery and a return to peak performance. In our modern world, We are conditioned to believe that more is always better. More information, more opportunities, more choices. But the architecture of the human mind has its limits. The field of behavioral economics offers a powerful lens through which to understand this, using a concept known as bounded rationality. Coined by Nobel laureate Herbert Simon, bounded rationality posits that our ability to make perfectly logical, optimal decisions is constrained. We are limited by the sheer volume of information available, our own cognitive capacity to process it, and the finite time we have. Every decision, no matter how small, consumes a portion of our mental energy. When options multiply, this mental effort increases exponentially. The brain, like a muscle, experiences fatigue. This leads directly to what psychologist Barry Schwartz termed the paradox of choice. The theory argues that an overabundance of options does not create more freedom, as one might expect. Instead, it often leads to decision paralysis and, paradoxically, lower satisfaction with the choices we ultimately make. The endless consideration of alternatives fosters anxiety and the lingering fear that a better option was missed. For the traveler, this translates into a dizzying array of potential destinations, hotels, and experiences, each demanding evaluation and risking post-trip regret. The ultra-wealthy, whose lives are a constant exercise in high-stakes decision-making, understand this principle intuitively. They have cultivated a strategic defense against the tyranny of choice. Their most precious, non-renewable asset is not capital, but cognitive bandwidth. They recognize that mental energy spent deliberating over trivial travel variables is energy diverted from their business empires, their investments, or their families. Therefore, they deliberately choose fewer variables. They curate a life of refined defaults. This isn't about limitation, it's about optimization. By returning to the same trusted properties, they eliminate the entire cognitive load of research and evaluation. The layout of the suite is known, the quality of the service is guaranteed, the logistics are a solved equation. This is the art of strategic repetition, a system designed for maximum efficiency and minimum mental friction. Beyond the cold calculus of efficiency, however, lies a deeper, more human dimension: the need for emotional safety. Familiar environments provide a subtle but profound sense of belonging and psychological comfort. In a life often lived under public or corporate scrutiny, these trusted spaces become genuine sanctuaries. Here, the performance of public life can be set aside. Staff recognize preferences without instruction, anticipating the need for a specific newspaper, a particular temperature in the room, or a reservation at a favorite quiet table. Spaces feel navigable without thought, allowing the mind to truly rest. Privacy protocols are already established and understood, eliminating the anxiety of the unknown. This is not merely service, it is a state of being known, of being understood. It is the ultimate luxury of not having to ask. In the world of ultra-high net worth travel, trust is not merely a preference, it is the foundational currency. Luxury advisors consistently report that their most discerning clients gravitate towards a small, meticulously vetted circle of trusted agents and repeat properties. This isn't a matter of limited imagination, but a calculated strategy for efficiency and peace of mind. The initial investment in finding the right advisor and the perfect location is significant, involving deep research and personal vetting. Once that trust is established, however, the relationship begins to compound in value. With each successful journey, the experience becomes progressively more frictionless. Friction, in this context, represents any point of cognitive load or uncertainty. It's the small anxieties of a new airport, the question of whether a hotel will honor a privacy request, or the time spent explaining dietary needs for the 10th time. A trusted ecosystem eliminates these variables. The advisor already holds a deep, nuanced understanding of the client's preferences, from the ideal room temperature to the preferred brand of bottled water. They act as a single point of contact, a gatekeeper who translates complex desires into flawless execution. The repeat property, in turn, becomes an extension of this understanding. Staff anticipate needs, logistics are pre-solved, and the entire environment is primed for immediate relaxation. The burden of decision-making is lifted, freeing up precious mental energy. This deep comfort that builds with repetition is profound. It transforms a commercial transaction into a feeling of homecoming. Over time, this pattern is further strengthened by a powerful psychological phenomenon: attachment to place. Just as individuals form secure attachments to people, they develop deep, meaningful bonds with specific environments. This is more than simple liking. It is an emotional and cognitive connection where a location becomes intertwined with one's personal history and sense of self. Memories are layered upon the landscape. The scent of pine in a mountain cabin, the sound of waves on a particular stretch of sand, the specific quality of light in a garden at dusk. These sensory details become imbued with personal significance. A summer estate becomes the backdrop for family milestones. A winter mountain retreat, the site of quiet reflection and renewal. A private island, revisited each year, marks the passage of time in a predictable, reassuring rhythm. These are not just holidays, they are rituals. The places themselves become characters in the story of a life, holding memories of children growing up, of partnerships deepening, and of personal triumphs celebrated in a familiar private setting. In this way, these locations evolve into psychological anchors. They are stable, predictable reference points in lives that are otherwise often demanding, volatile, and intensely public. Returning is not a retreat from adventure, but an affirmation of identity, a pilgrimage to a place where one is known, understood, and can simply be. It is the ultimate luxury, the feeling of belonging. Returning reinforces identity and continuity. Routine itself carries status. While novelty signals curiosity, predictability signals control. The ability to choose repetition, not because options are limited, but because preference is refined, reflects discernment. Modern luxury has shifted away from spectacle towards seamless execution. Predictability is no longer boring, it is sophisticated. There is also a quiet efficiency in repetition. Known destinations allow for optimized pacing. Time is not wasted on orientation or experimentation. Energy is directed toward restoration. Predictable luxury feels effortless because systems are already aligned. In contemporary high-end travel, novelty has become secondary to calibration. What matters is not how new an experience feels. It is how stable it feels. Luxury, at its highest level, protects attention, regulates emotion, and minimizes unnecessary input. Familiarity accomplishes all three. Ultimately, the ultra-wealthy do not travel to be surprised. They travel to feel balanced. And balance is easier to achieve in environments that are already understood. For most travelers, luxury is about discovering somewhere new. For the wealthiest, it is often about returning somewhere known and finding it exactly as expected.